And for anybody that's campaigning actively in the area of drug use, is you have to be able to look at environments and the equality of people's conditions. And I think people get so focused on the type of drug being the harmful thing, or heroin is the harmful thing, or crack is the harmful thing, when in a sense that was the response to the harmful thing, you know, and that's what we need to focus on. So we need to be able to focus on people's communities, their living conditions, their opportunities, the safety of people's lives, the education system. And the more we allow the narrative and dialogue to be pushed towards the substance, we actually allow them off, like, because they want to blame drugs. So like in communities like this, sometimes I think they blame drugs for the conditions instead of the other way around, when it's actually the conditions is what led to the kind of, you know, manifestation of so much drug use, you know. That's what I kept trying to tell them. It's about the person, the individual, not the substance. But I suppose conservative policymakers keep pulling it back and going, oh, but what about heroin? But what about heroin? Or what about crack? And you're like, no, it's not about the substance. It's not about the substance. And I suppose that's what I've been trying to do all this time, is to not move into a space where we're creating a hierarchy of substances, right? Because it's not about that. It's about environment. It's about people, how they live. It's about how they cope. It's about how they survive. And if we keep focusing in on the specific drug, well, then we're still failing, because that's not what it is. It's not a war on drugs. It's actually about people and what they use and why they use. You know, in Trinity, I suppose I have friends who would be smoking weed or would be taking E, and the likelihood of them ever encountering a guard and a random stop and search was almost nil. But then I come back into my own community and I watch my friends be stopped and searched for no apparent reasons, guards, constant presence of over-policing in communities. But yet they're still the same. Like, so you're from one community, you're not policed, you have, you know, 50 euros worth of weed in your pocket, you're from a different community, you're doing the exact same thing, but you're never going to probably end up in prison for it in the way that you are in many working class communities or minority groups or marginalised groups. Sometimes there's this level of acceptance that this is just the way it is, and I think if we can support people to push past that this is just the way it is, to push past that acceptance and to know that they're worth more and valued more and deserve more, I think that's what we need to get to, instead of focusing on the particular problems, but actually empowering people's ability to be able to advocate for themselves, to be able to exercise their own rights, to be able to even recognise their own rights. If we were doing community development, then the woman from Cushlawn who set up the youth centre, she'd be the CEO, or, you know what I mean, like, that's where you'd be moving towards. But you've an over-professionalisation, do you know what I mean? So people came in and then it was like, no, you need this expertise and you need that expertise. So now you just have service provision in communities that doesn't have enough local people actually in them. So I think that, and you have the state pulling back the decision making closer and closer centrally, away from actual communities being able to make decisions on how they're funded themselves. Because I think in some sense they want a monster to point at, so they go, the big bad drug dealer, that's him, it's his fault. When actually we created, by introducing the Drugs Act, we created the black market.